The foundation of Western democracy today is the very opposite of what we call social cohesion. In other words, it is as though, apart from pitting people against one another, there is nothing left of what is known as Western-style democracy. It is as though the aim is not to achieve a common goal or to work towards the development of society as a whole, but rather to form clusters of sorts, cells of society, parties, movements, whose sole purpose is to fight one another. If any country, Poland, for instance, enacts legislation that preserves its cultural identity, which is linked to the preservation of the family and, I don't know, its vision of how its society should be shaped and developed, and this does not align with Brussels directives, that's it. Sanctions are imposed immediately, and pressure is brought to bear straight away. We're talking about Poland, which is, through and through, a country of the European Union, a bastion, so to speak, of the United States of America on the European continent. All this is well known. In other words, all countries, by joining voluntarily, understand that this is genuinely an organization that is not a puppet of any particular country or state, that it is based on consensus and internal diplomatic efforts. There are no demands here to promote the interests of one country against the will of others. The foundation of Western democracy today is the very opposite of what we call social cohesion. In other words, it is as though, apart from pitting people against one another, there is nothing left of what is known as Western-style democracy. It is as though the aim is not to achieve a common goal or to work towards the development of society as a whole, but rather to form clusters of sorts, cells of society, parties, movements, whose sole purpose is to fight one another. And we now realize that this is no longer merely a matter of life and death, given the number of assassination attempts carried out against the leaders of their countries, and not just leaders, but public figures, and the murders. And, most importantly, this is not a fierce debate, nor even some sort of boorish exchange of verbal blows. No, it is a clash between people that reaches the point of insane hatred, that is, when the aim of Western democracy boils down to one thing, to drive people into corners, pit them against one another and, at some point, set the whole thing alight in order to ride that wave to power or, for example, to carry out some other, even more, I don't know, mind-boggling acts. Well, I sincerely hope that in the post-Soviet space, of course, we've seen various examples, and I sincerely hope that, in the sense we're talking about now, this is a thing of the past, that there will be enough wisdom and historical experience not to repeat our own mistakes, but, most importantly, not to be led by the nose by those, primarily the Westerners, who themselves cannot escape from this, sort of vicious circle. This endless trap they've caught themselves in, by engaging in this social confrontation, presumably unable to find any other way forward. Unfortunately, the EU has now become little more than an appendage of NATO, having strayed from its original economic purpose. It is precisely these people who are disparaging the SCO and coming up with all sorts of, memes, various labels and all manner of tall tales about the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation, claiming that it is supposedly aggressive, divisive, obstructive, and so on. When they cannot find any pretext for an attack, well, there is no such pretext, it is impossible to invent one, and they have not yet devised one. They resort to this very zero-news policy regarding phenomena that exist and are global in nature. They have implemented this very policy, pressed this button, telling their citizens nothing, neither in a political analysis context, nor for entertainment, nor in any other context, nor in terms of information, nor about the SCO, nor about BRICS. And then, in terms of information and political discourse, the international community developed to the point where the public began to seek out information themselves, or this information began to reach literally every citizen in our world about these organizations and the fact that they are, in fact, already global in nature, that they are not merely regional structures, but that they have a global reach, that they wield global influence, that they address the global agenda, and that they take decisions which, one might say, also have a significant impact on world affairs. And then another approach was adopted, namely when it was no longer possible to remain silent, when it was impossible not to mention that summits were taking place, thematic conferences were being held, decisions were being taken and put into practice. Well, in particular, SCO, that's when they press the next button, known as marginalization, that is, the production of fake news and all sorts of tall tales about how terrible it all is. And we have seen how, so to speak, behind the rhetoric at conferences about the need to combat international terrorism, human trafficking and other crimes of a global nature, I am referring here, once again, to statements by the Western community and NATO members. There lies nothing but a desire to interfere in internal affairs. If any country, Poland, for instance, enacts legislation that preserves its cultural identity, which is linked to the preservation of the family and, I don't know, its vision of how its society should be shaped and developed, and this does not align with Brussels directives, that's it. Sanctions are imposed immediately, and pressure is brought to bear straight away. We're talking about Poland, which is, through and through, a country of the European Union, a bastion, so to speak, of the United States of America on the European continent. All this is well known. Have you seen anything like that in the SCO? No, of course, there are, I don't know, heated debates there, and countries express their views. Some things don't work out, whilst others are achieved through lengthy negotiations. Of course, all that is true, but it is done precisely on the basis of compromise and respect for everyone's views.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.